bicycle master plan was more specifically hashed out with our bicycle advocacy group, a group of interested bicyclists around our community that are, a lot of people would know them. They ride bikes in our community all the time and are interested in safe bicycling for all of the people who ride bicycles. And so probably about 3 years ago, they approached the city to say, could we help kind of finalize an actual plan and what the actual street should be. And so they helped us with city staff and with a lot of involvement of the community to ride the streets that they felt like were the best and to finalize where we thought the best streets would be for bicycling. And that over time took us, we did that with our police department as well. We had quite a group of people talking about it. Our Bicycle Friendly America, that is a group in the U.S. that actually rates cities on how friendly their community is to bicyclists. And in Kansas, there's a few communities that have had that rating performed on them: the city of Shawnee, the city of Manhattan, and the city of Lawrence. And so we felt like that would be a good start for us to see where do we sit so far and where can we improve on how friendly our community is to bicyclists. So over time, we developed the map actually that was adopted in February of this year actually. It was adopted by our city commission, and we feel like this is a good start. It can be amended as time goes along, but for now we have a fairly good start at a specific plan for our community. And one thing to recognize, in the past, we've had quite a few bicyclists in our community for many years. There used to actually be a bike route on Marymount and Iron Street, so it was, a lot of people that have been in this community a while remember when we actually had bike lanes or streets that were designated as bicycle routes. So many of those routes have kind of resurfaced as, yep, those are still pretty good routes to use, or if they're not, we found some new ones. But there are certain areas of town and routes that people have thought these are the best, the safest, or the widest roads, or the nicest roads, or have the best vehicular traffic to, that we think it's the safest place for people to ride bicycles, and also to get them to the places in the community that everybody wants to go. So the bike lanes on the streets are just a way to facilitate that, all the users, I guess, of the travel system to make it safer for cars to understand there might be a bike here, bikes to understand I should really be riding on this side of the road or in this area. That makes it a little bit safer for me. And the cars, we can share the road basically, and if we have enough space for it. We have two different kinds of pavement markings. We have actual bike lanes, which are two stripes with a bicycle and an arrow in the bike lanes. And so where we have enough room on our streets, we try to make a bike lane. And so like you'll see those on Santa Fe, downtown area. We have fairly wide roads there. We can allow parking, basically about 7 to 8 foot of parking, 5 to 7 feet of a bike lane, and then 10 to 12 feet of a vehicle lane. So all of that can fit in that corridor if everybody kind of shares their spot. But areas of town where we don't have enough room on the road to allow parking, or the lane widths aren't quite wide enough, we just have sharrow markings, and sharrow markings look like a bicycle as well, but they have some arrows on top of the bike. They're a little shorter, and they're just a share the road marking basically. So they're really no different than any road in town, other than these roads have been designated as areas where we may have more bikers. We feel like they're decent roads for biking, and so a vehicle or a biker would you'll possibly see more bicycles on that road, and it's just to share the road marking. We have proposed about a little over 40 miles of bike lanes on the roads. We already have some levee trails, which a little over 6 miles of levee trail where you can ride your bike or walk, or recreational use trail basically is on top of our Salina flood control levee. We also have some trails, some wide sidewalks along some of our streets. So we have proposed around 9 miles of those, a little over 9 miles wide sidewalks thus far, and so we'll have more options over the last 10 years, and over the next 5 to 7 years, as this is implemented, we'll have a lot more options for pedestrians and bicycles. The process for constructing bike lanes is we have a maintenance program where we use microsurfacing, mill and inlay. Those are our normal asphalt maintenance treatments that you'll see on our streets. So whether we are putting new asphalt on Ohio Street, or putting some microsurfacing in your neighborhood or along many of our streets, actually chip seal. There's other things that we do as a city maintenance program every year, and so we have to maintain our streets to try to keep them from decaying and going into disrepair. If you can treat them on the surface with one of those treatments every 5 to 7 years is kind of the normal time frame, depending on money and how good a shape they're in. But our plan with the bike lanes is to follow that process as well. So it doesn't make as much sense economically and for the taxpayers to, for us to go out and try to get rid of all of our pavement markings and redo them all, because pavement markings are costly. They're supposed to last a while, and so if we have to try to implement a bike plan in 1 year, it would be a significant cost to the city to try to do that. So with our annual maintenance program, we're able to, each street that we perform maintenance on, we can look and see if that's on the bicycle master plan and say, okay, we're going to remark that street once we've overlaid it or microsurfaced it or chip sealed it with the new markings. They can come along at the same time, and they don't cost us a whole lot more than any markings that we would do on a street. It's harder to take up markings, put new ones down, than it is to just perform the markings at the time that we're doing the maintenance on the road. So to say we're going to implement the plan over the next 5 to 7 years, I think is a fair statement. Some of our roads are concrete, so if it's a concrete road, we don't typically do a lot of maintenance to our concrete roads. So we'll have to find out or figure out another way to address those. But for the majority of the streets, you'll see bike lanes and bike sharrow symbols go down over the next 7 years. Bicycle lanes shouldn't have parking on. It shouldn't have a whole lot of impact on parking. The bicycle lanes, where we have the room, we're able to designate parking areas and bicycle lanes, and where we have share the road symbols, we've allowed for parking and the bicyclist and the vehicle based on where the sharrow is placed. The sharrows and the bike lanes are a first step in helping to educate drivers on being cautious of bicyclists. So as they share the roads, as we see more bicyclists in our community, a driver should be aware more if there's a bicyclist on the road. And so if a bicyclist is already on the road to the right, driver would yield to the bicyclist. And basically, the bicyclist is supposed to have the same, abide by the same rules as the driver. So it's just like any other vehicle would have to yield to another vehicle, you yield to the bicyclist in the same way. So when you're turning right, if a bicyclist is turning right, then you'll just be behind the bicyclist. Or if the bicyclist is behind you, you understand that there's a bicyclist next to you or behind you that you should be aware of before you make the turn. Parking wise, the bicyclists will be sometimes in the bike lanes or sometimes in the shared lanes. So we would hope the people in our community would start thinking about, when you open your door, to consider there might be a bicyclist coming along. On the other hand, the bicyclist needs to understand that if somebody opens their door and they're riding right next to parked cars, that somebody could open their door, so they would ride far enough away from the cars to make sure that the door doesn't hit the bicyclist. So it's a mutual understanding now, as we have more bicyclists in town, that we share the roads and share the parking as well. When a driver is entering and exiting their driveway, they'll definitely need to look for bicyclists, just like they would today for a car or a pedestrian. You just would also want to be looking for bicycles.
I think it's a really good idea. It will help with like the environment and encourage people to bicycle more, and it'll help encourage the people who already do bicycle to just be able to ride their bike and be able to have a place where they can do that without either running over pedestrians or getting run over themselves. So I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah, I use the one on Santa Fe a lot actually, and I like it a lot better than having to ride on the sidewalk and dodge and all the everybody that walks on the sidewalks. It's just not fun.
I think they're good for our community, for the safety of bicyclists. Just makes everything safer. You don't want to be on your bike worried about getting hit by a car. So it's a good idea. Hopefully it keep moving forward with it.
Downtown area?
I have no clue.
On Santa Fe.
I'm gonna guess 3 to 5 feet.
Like 5 feet is it?
3 feet.
We're gonna go with illegal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah.
I think if you're supposed to use your left hand, and if you're turning left, you like do a straight arm, and then if you're turning right, you do like for a right angle. Just be like stop.
This is you're turning right, and then turn left.
If you're going left, right, if you're braking, up like that.
Three.
Millions.
The 911 Communications Center serves as the public safety answering point for Salina and Saline County, providing emergency and non-emergency call processing. Personnel in the center work behind the scenes of emergencies 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are the critical link between emergency responders and individuals who need immediate police, fire, and medical assistance. In 2015, personnel dispatched 85,504 calls for service. Police officers responded to 45,564 calls. Sheriff's deputies to 29,569 calls. Firefighters to 2,989 calls. Rural firefighters to 651 calls. And emergency medical technicians to 6,731 calls. The top 5 calls: domestic violence, number 5. Vehicle accidents, number 4. Thefts, number 3. Triggered alarms, number 2. And suspicious activity, number 1. Public safety in our city and county is critically dependent upon the quick decision-making ability and accurate broadcast of information by 911 Communications Center personnel. Your safety is their concern.
And my question was, do we know a time frame on the development for downtown Salina?
Marie, thank you for taking such an interest in our downtown. It's already a good downtown, but we know we can make it great. And as you know, there are plans to do a lot of things in our downtown. We're talking about a big recreational field house. We're talking about an entertainment complex that has bowling and arcade and some other great things. Maybe a really cool car museum, some housing possibly in our downtown. And we think that those things can spur on the interest in restaurants and in other shops and more shopping and just give people a lot of things to do. Well, where we are at right now is we're working to put together an application or a plan to the State Department of Commerce. And the reason we're doing that is because if we do that, and if they like our plan, and if they think that we're going to bring tourists from a really broad area, they will allow us to use some of their sales tax and bring it into our project. And if we can have their sales tax, then we can do more with our project. And so we're within about 3 months of being able to submit to the Department of Commerce, and then it shouldn't take long to hear back from them. And if we get approved for what they call star bonds, then we will issue bonds, which is like a form of debt, and we can move forward with development agreements for those projects we just talked about, and also a big nice hotel in the south part of our downtown near the hospital. And those projects can then start probably sometime in 2016. Maybe some of them will fall into 2017 because they do have to be designed by an architect first. But we will start to see construction in 16, and we should see it in 17 if all goes well. So we hope that if we can get our application in, get it approved, and they like our plan, that we will actually see dirt turned and buildings start to go up next year and in the following year. And then the doors will open soon and we'll have some awesome things to do. So thank you for your question.
Hello, I'm Shawnee Dafia. I'm from Houston, Texas. I've been at St. John's for 3 years, and my question to the Salina City Manager is, I've talked to a lot of young students who attend public schools in Salina, and they all say that they will be leaving Salina as soon as they're done with high school. What are you doing to change that or affect that?
Sean, that is a great question. As you know, we have quite a few young people in our community, and they go to school here, and then eventually some of them do leave. And Salina is a great town, and we've always been known as a great family town, but we often don't offer the things that singles, young people would like to have us provide to them. And so oftentimes they may go off to the big city, as we all like to do, like to explore, and sometimes they come back and sometimes they don't. But what you're asking is a big community question. It's not just a local government question, but it's a great question. So what are we doing? Well, it's a community question because, first of all, for someone to come back, they need to have a great job. So when you go out there, get your college education, you need to have a good job. And so Salina needs to offer you a good job. So we're continuing to focus on what we can do to offer great jobs for those with college degrees and those without college degrees. And also, if you're a young person, you kind of like to hang out, right? And you need Wi-Fi and those types of things, be with your friends. So we are thinking about what can we do to help that environment. Well, we have people in our community that are wanting to do great things with our downtown. And we've been talking for years about what can we do to redevelop our river. When you put those two things together, it could create just an awesome experience for young people in our downtown. And so we have a lot of people focused to make that happen, and hopefully it will happen. The other thing is that the City of Salina, we offer specific services in parks and recreation, and we have nice parks and things like that. So we are trying to do what we can in the parks and in other ways, such as like trails, so people can hike and bike and jog, and kind of give you the outdoor options in our community if you like to fish or do things like that. So hopefully when we combine what we're doing from the Parks and Recreation side and also from a Bicentennial Center side with things like concerts and monster trucks and things that young people like to go to, combined with the improvements in the downtown, that hopefully will give young people a place to kind of hang out, that we will have the key ingredients for young people to come back to our community, or maybe just to stay here after all.